Good evening.
Good evening.
How's everybody?
Good evening. Trying to stay safe.
Doing
Yeah,
great.
trying to
Doing good. Hello.
get in the crud. I know. I think it's going to be impossible though. So I hope everybody survives it. Oh man, let's see. I've got about 7 o'clock. It's about time to get started. Let's see. I see Jennifer's here. Getting married. Congratulations. I saw that in your welcome notice.
Thank you so much. Yeah, a lot going on this semester.
I see that. Marriage is a wonderful institution if you feel the need to be institutionalized.
Yes, I found the right person this time.
Well, good for you.
Yes, thank you.
I've been married to the same, believe it or not, to the same one for 37 years. I was old enough to know better when I got married, but I did it anyway. It's the best thing that ever happened. So good luck to you. Best wishes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
That's great. That is great. Well, welcome to Mels 603. As you have figured out, sections C4 and C6 have been collapsed into one. And so those of you who were in 6 are now in 4. They did that to save money. Not to pay me much. I'm old and retired, so. But we will maintain those 2 sections for coaching. We did not collapse the C4 and C6 coaching shells. And so to that end, I want to first share my screen and welcome everybody. And I will get us started in Blackboard tonight. We've got a lot of ground to cover, and so I want to make sure we do it all. But the most important thing is introduce you to the 2 folks who will be working with us this semester. Dr. Russell Holloman is principal at Franklinton High School in Franklin County, and he will be the coach for the C4 section. The C6 section will be Dr. Renita Griffin-Joyner. Dr. Griffin-Joyner is principal at City of Medicine High School in Durham. And so these are our 2 resident principal experts. As you know, when we get to 603, I always make sure that we have resident principal experts who will tell us the real deal on how school is run. Remembering that Mel 603 is law, finance, and operations. How do you run a school? Last semester, you did the curriculum piece. You did the app sale on how to do a data dive, set up a PLC, do a data dive, and figure out what your problem is academically and set an action plan to address it. You worked in teacher empowerment, trying to figure out how to put together a professional growth plan for your faculty. We're switching our focus this semester to the operation of the school. So we'll do the OMA, which is how you build a legal master schedule, duty roster, and supervision schedule. How to build a marketing plan for your school, for the community, through the SKIP, and we will get the first at least 2 tasks of the CAP, which is about your school culture. This is about how you run the school, the day-to-day operations of a school, the operational piece. And our 2 resident principals will be able to chime in on those things each week, and they'll do some lessons during the second half. Now, as you have figured out, we'll only meet on Wednesdays. There will not be additional coaching sessions. You will turn all your tasks into me in our shell here, and I will grade them. And if they're not good enough, I'll work with you. And if I'm not good enough, then we'll get you over to their shell. So to that end, they have a shell that you have where it says my courses, you have a 698 C4 or C6 shell, and that goes straight to them. You will not use that unless I tell you to, though. Let me be clear on that. All of the work is set up in this shell. We're kind of eliminating the middleman this semester. We're going to go faster. You know the process. It will go much quicker. I'll cover the task and the prompts on class night. And as you can see, we've got a place here for you to to pick up your task and prompts and know what you're going to be doing in the OMA. I'll cover that later on. Task for peer instructor review when you're ready for me to review them. And what I'll say is excellent. Continue with peer review and move on to the next task. Or I'll say this needs to be fixed. And if we can't get that worked out, then I'll move you over to their shell and we'll let them work with you individually. But we won't do any more group coaching sessions or any of those. We're only going to meet one night a week, and we'll meet 1 hour, except for our case study nights. Those nights tend to run about 2 hours. And so let's look at our weekly schedule quickly. There's a tab for this. Let me pull that up, our add-on licensure. And so I have in here what day we'll meet, what time each week, what we'll be covering, what you need to read, where we'll be pacing you on your evidence work. We'll start task 1 tonight. It'll be due in 2 weeks. It'll need to be in there for peer instructor review. And we'll go from there, and you can see the task. You can see how we're paced. You can see the things that we're going to cover. And again, you can see that our intention is to get to cap task 1 and 2 this semester. And there's also another reason. I'll stop my share and go back to the main screen here. As you know, in May, things kind of shut down in public school. I'm not talking about COVID, I'm talking about getting ready for testing. All those kinds of things happen in May. And if we don't get those 2 tasks done before this semester is over, if we wait and come back in late May to summer school, it'll be awfully hard to interview people, send out surveys, do any of that kind of thing. And then, testing leads right into the end of school and everybody's gone. So you folks all want to finish this summer, understanding that summer school is only 10 weeks long. And you've got to have your evidence work done 8 weeks in, and there are 6 tasks in the SIOP. So we need to get the OMA knocked out this semester, to skip and at least half of the cap done. But we'll be here to support you. I'll turn your work around. I grade in Blackboard every morning and every night. Your work will not sit here more than just a few hours. I stay up late. You can call or you can email me. But we're gonna hit our OMA quickly. We'll be on that, and we're also aided by the fact that since you all did your APTEL correctly last semester, task 2 of the OMA is just going to be a copy and paste. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So welcome. I'm going to pause and catch my breath, and I'm going to allow, as I said, our 2 resident principals just a moment to introduce themselves and have anything that they'd like to share with the group. So Dr. Griffin Joyner, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Renita Griffin Jordan. I am currently the principal of City of Medicine Academy. It's a magnet high school in Durham, North Carolina. And I'm in my 7th year as an administrator. Prior to that, I was a career counselor. I was probably in my 15th year as a school counselor. I thought that was where I wanted to be for the duration of my educational career. And I had a principal that was pushing me. As a counselor, I was doing everything that the admin were doing. And he told me, you might as well go back and get your admin certification. And I did. I was an assistant principal at the largest comprehensive high school in Durham for 3 years, and then at City of Medicine Magnet School in Durham for the past 3 years. This is my very first year as a school principal. So I have plenty of things to share with you, the ups and the downs and things that you probably wouldn't think about that you will have to deal with when you become a school principal. And I just want to share my experiences with you and help you in any way possible to reach the goals that you've set for yourself through Garner Webb and in the future.
Thank you, Dr. Griffin Joyner. Dr. Holloman.
Good evening, everybody. How are you all tonight? My name is Russell Holloman. I'm currently the principal at Franklinton High School. So Franklin County is just north of Wake County, kind of snuggled between Nash, Warren, Vance, Durham, and Granville. School is about 1,300 students. I've been there for 8 years as principal at Franklinton. Prior to that, I was a principal in Beaufort County in the eastern part of the state at Washington High School for 8 years. And then prior to that, I was in Edgecombe County, a little further down the Tar River. Started as an English teacher. I was a teaching fellow, and then kind of worked my way as an assistant principal by writing a comprehensive school reform grant for the county, and then was asked to facilitate it. And really kind of continued on working with schools, working with school reform, turnaround teams with high schools that works. And then have continued on with some work with East Carolina University, and now excited to be working with Gardner Webb. So I'm excited to kind of give you a few years of experience on my end. In 16 years as a building level principal, I've seen a lot of things change between Sims and Power School and all the things in between, and a lot of the other things that have kind of come along with that and new challenges. So excited to have that dialogue and discourse with you and help along the way to get you ready to begin in your role as well.
That's great. Thank you. So we have a unique perspective that I'm really excited about. Again, as they said, Dr. Hallman has been a building principal for 16 years, and Dr. Griffin Joyner, this is her first year. And I think those two perspectives will be wonderful for our learning this semester. As we say, we always want to have a resident expert principal to tell us how it is. As you know, it's been a day or two since I've been in the building, just a day or two. I'm about as old as dirt, but these folks are still relevant. They know what's going on each day, and I think they will greatly add to the richness of our experience this semester. So I'll go back to screen share again, and let's look through our shell quickly, make sure that we remember all the pieces of the shell. Over here on the left, we have our course overview, and it has the welcome, it has my information, and it has the information for our coaches here. Please remember to do your enrollment verification activity. We need to have that so that I don't no-show you at the appropriate time when it's time to do roll verification. Here are your books. There are 2 books. You have the Principal's Guide to School Law, which you will keep for a long time. It's a very good book. And then you have resource management. So you need to get those 2 books. The syllabus, the point system, total points available. This course is 5,000 if you make 45 or above. Everything's 100 points, and here's the point breakdown so you'll know where you are points wise. Here's our Zoom link that we'll use every week. I will do an interviewing session later this spring, and when I do, I will put it here and provide a link to that. Some of you will start interviewing this spring for jobs this fall. We'll work through the 4 types of assistant principal interviews. We'll talk about that more around the week that we talk about personnel. So that'll be on over in March, but we'll set up a time to do that, and we'll invite others in as well. So that's what's under our course overview as we go down. All your handbooks are here. I think I've updated all of those. There's a graphic organizer example that you would use for your marketing plan in the SCIP. You'll also use it for your cultural advocacy plan in your CAP. That's the same graphic organizer that you used for your action plan in the app cell and your professional growth plan in the app tail. So a copy of it's here. All the handbooks are here. The open-ended competency artifacts, where you find those and where you find the artifacts from the evidences, are also here. That helps you with your competency folio. We'll talk about it a little bit later this semester. We aren't there yet. We'll have to do a little work in our evidence work and a little clinical work before we start thinking about uploading artifacts in our competency folio. But we have those materials here. As I said, the weekly schedule is here. Discussion board. You have a discussion board each week. somebody has put a contact information in just in the last few minutes, but they're all numbered. You have one each week. There's 16 discussion boards, 16 weeks. And they're coming and going to and fro, and they're not read a chapter, write a paper things. Locate a copy of the school emergency plan. Examine your district's, find and examine your district's field trip policy. Financial liability, observe due process. That means when a kid gets discipline processed. Examine your district's policy on cyberbullying. Attend an IEP meeting. Interview the chair of your intervention team. Interview an administrator concerning HR hiring, how you hire people in your district. Interview an administrator concerning employee assistant, compensation plans and benefits. What does your district office offer? Conduct a facilities walkthrough using the assessment inventory checklist that I will provide for you. Many of you know that you're legally required to do a fire drill every month. Probably not many of you knew that you're also required to do a twice monthly safety check of your facility. And you have to document it. That's in state law. 115C288G says you have to do that every month. Not a lot of people know that, but you will if you ever have an incident happen at your school or it catches on fire. You'll know that because that's the first thing they'll ask for. And so you'll learn how to do a facilities walkthrough. Interview an administrator concerning full school fundraising. That's the one that gets you the most. Is you can delegate the activity, but not the responsibility. People say, well, fundraising is easy at our school. We just delegate it to the PTA. I can't tell you how many levels of stupid that is. If you think that just because you delegate it to them that you're off the hook. Now, the point here in this course is I can't keep you from getting sued. My job is to make sure you win and not lose your house. If you do some things dumb, especially the money, you have to go home. And so that's the notion here is we're trying not to lose our house. Letting somebody else run school fundraising and not keeping up with it, that's a quick path to losing your domicile, being homeless, being out of a job. And so you need to find out about fundraising in your district and at your school. Interview your administrator about the 5 most important steps in school-based budgeting. Locate a copy of your budget. Does it contain federal, state, and local funds? What's missing? There's a case study that you respond to on sexual misbehavior, respond to one on harassment. And so there's a lot of coming and going. So I would recommend you go ahead and read through those and start planning when you're going to be able to do this stuff. A lot of activities here, but worthwhile activities and things we'll be doing. Now, peer reviewing. I've got this for I should edit that right quick. Backspace too. I'll do that. All right, let's see what it says. Submit. All right. Using the peer review template, students will review one team member's OMA task 1, 2, and 3. Try to do a different one. You'll also do 1, 2, and 3 of the skip. You won't do any Zoom peer reviews. We're going to reserve Zoom for something else this semester. So you will do a peer review 1 of a task 1, 2, and 3 of both the OMA and the skip. You won't peer review the CAP. I'll do that. So you only have 6 of those to do. They're just written. You just post those. You know how that process works. Now, instead of spending our time doing peer reviews on Zoom, you're going to do case studies this semester. We have 4 case studies. They're dispersed. I think the first one is week 6. But here they are. Here are each of the 4 case studies. Here is the case study. Here is a previous video. You'll produce a PowerPoint each of these, and you'll do a half-page reflection of what you learned during this. And so we have 4 case studies. Let me pause myself again here. Do we everybody have a Zoom team from last semester? Now, if you don't, if there's something that's a problem, I would like for you to continue in your collaborative groups. And that will be your Zoom team, and y'all know how to get together, and I'm gonna let y'all handle your business. And so we'll talk more about case studies in a couple of weeks. As I said, the first one's not until week 6. And so the second or third week, I'll talk to you more about case studies. But what's important right now is make sure that if you've got less than, if you don't have a Zoom team, I need to know that. If there's a problem with your Zoom teams. I prefer you to have, if you've only got 2, that's okay. I prefer you to have 3. I really don't want you to have more than 4. But if there's a problem with your team, you just need to email me and let me know. But we'll just consider that you'll use the same teams as last time. So again, when you Zoom this semester, it won't be for peer review. It will be to put together this collaborative document. I prefer PowerPoint, so even if you know how to do Prizzies, we want a presentation like that. We want a professional presentation 4 times this semester. Coming online and Zooming just for communication is one level of learning. Using Zoom to create a collaborative project is the next level after that. And then you'll do another next level next semester. And so as we move up, we increase the complexity of our activities while decreasing the amount of hand-holding that we do. We told you early on, it's called gradual release or intentional abandonment, whatever. We'll step back more and let you step forward more in this leadership program. And so hopefully you will do well in your collaborative groups with your case studies. So that's how we're going to spend our Zoom time this semester, is on our 4 case studies. So let me share my screen and go back. And so there's where we have those. Now, everything that we cover each week, of course, will be under our Zoom sessions. So, and I have the OMA task and prompts here, a place where you upload your tasks for me to review them. The OMA check is here once you get all 4 of your tasks done, your final evidence narrative. And then when you finish it, here's the assignment Dropbox to put it in. And here's your skip task and prompts. Here's the place where you put your task in for skip review, and then down at the bottom are your CAP materials. We'll cover those. And each week, as I said, and here are your case studies, interviewing materials when we get there. If you intend to take the praxis, if you're in South Carolina or Virginia, here's the praxis information. You will be ready for it once this class is completed. So everything is here. It's laid out as we always lay them out. And so for tonight, as you can see, we are to review all Blackboard functions. I have done that. I will now move to task stream functions, and then we'll start talking about the OMA tonight. So I'll catch my breath here and go to the chat. Let's see what we got in chat. If you got 5 from last semester, if y'all are functional, that's fine with me. If y'all like working together, I think that's just peachy. That excites me as well. So that's good. All right, so let's talk about task stream. As you know, you have to log out task stream. Every time you come out, remember to log out. If it times you out, it may be a while before you can get back in, and sometimes it goes a little bit crazy. So every time you come out, you can leave it like this, but when you go back in. Now, please remember, I'm going to switch over to student view here. I'll switch over here. So y'all aren't ECI. Y'all are school administration fall 20. There you go. All right, so this is what your DRF portfolio looks like. You've already done your app sell and app tell. You have done your competency analysis and your School of Ed dispositions. This semester, you will complete the OMA skip and only do School of Ed dispositions. You don't have to do competency analysis this semester. And so those are the things, and this is where when it's completed and I tell you it's ready to go, submit for evaluation. Once you go through, turn it in, this is where you will put your OMA final narrative and your skip final narrative when you complete those.
Who's good?
That's all right.
No, you're not. It's all.
And so that's where those goes. And of course, here's the other things that will be due. Please remember, for those of you who don't remember, and I'm old, so when I sleep, I disremember. Please remember that your competency folio is not in your DRF portfolio. It's separately here in under folios and web pages. And here are some of the ones that I did. And remembering that there are 21 competencies that you have to put an artifact in that represents what you did to show competency during your clinical experience, either from doing the OMA or skip this semester, or open-ended from your 80 hours of clinical work at your school. So for example, communication, you did the app cell probably last semester or open-ended. Let's see, change management, conflict management, creative thinking. Yeah, there's one. See, customer focus. You can probably get an artifact from doing the OMA and the skip, and maybe even one open-ended. So remember, there is directions as you click on these, and it tells you that one of them's got to be digital. But we'll cover that later. But please remember, every semester, I have somebody email me that I have lost my competency folio. Just remember, it is not in your DRF portfolio. It's separately under folios and web pages. All right, so we can do the OMA, skip. We'll upload those, get them evaluated this semester. I will be your coach on those. I will give you feedback. If I can't help you, I'll move you to one of our resident experts here who will help you with that. We will, when we finish the OMA, we'll stop for a minute and we'll start looking at our artifacts at that time. We'll look at open-ended OMA, and then we'll look at skip later on. But we're not ready to upload those right yet. And remember, we don't do any comments or any work. We build all of our work in Blackboard, and then we put the final one, just like we did the app cell and the app tel last semester. We put the final one in our in task string for evaluation. And please remember, I'll tell you when it's ready to go. All right, so that's Blackboard and task string. All right, how far off on my own time? Let me share my screen here. Let's see. Look at that. I came in a minute and a half underneath. That never happens. Let me close this out. Always when you leave, make sure you log out of task string. All right, so we're halfway through tonight, and so now it's time. We're right on our time tonight. It's time to talk about the OMA. That is the third of the evidences for your task string portfolio. So let me move back over to Blackboard here and start talking about the OMA. So what I'm going to pull up here is this master scheduling PowerPoint. That kind of summarizes my thoughts. Now, you can see from my PowerPoint, there's not many slides, they don't say a lot, so I don't have a lot of thoughts. But here they are. This is a workshop that I do for different districts to work with development of their assistant principals and principals around the state. And I've done it in a number in North. I actually did it in South Carolina this year as well. I'm down in Cherokee 1. The path to school improvement. Dr. Hallman said he's worked with, with school improvement, high school improvement. The path to school improvement, in my opinion, is a triangle. School improvement, the base of that, the two legs that hold it up are the master schedule and the school budget. They have to support that school improvement plan. It doesn't do us any good to spend all that time on the app cell and the app tel, which is the academic and the growth piece to the school improvement plan, which is the heart of the plan, is the app cell and the app tel. But if the master schedule and the school budget don't support the school improvement plan, it won't happen. You say, well, Dale, how does the master schedule and the school budget support the plan? Say our goal is reading. Do in our master schedule, do we have our best teachers teaching reading? Do we spend more time on reading? Do we get resources, maybe some new reading materials or some software? Do we put our money and our best people where they can be most effective for the academic initiatives that we have in that school improvement plan? And so the goal of this class, I tell people each semester, is not to just build a master schedule, duties roster, and supervision schedule, but to build a legal one that works for your school. And so master scheduling, things you'll need for task OMA task 1, got them written down here. You'll need your report card, your state report card, because it's going to have your internal context. And a big part of that is your academic achievement. It's going to have teacher quality, academic achievement. It's going to have attendance. It's going to have your disciplinary data. All of those things will be on your state report card. Now you say, well, Dale, because of COVID, go back to a year where you can find them. But you should have a report card that gives you the internal. The task 1's going to ask you for the internal context of your school. That's what we're talking about. And a big part of that, again, is academics, attendance, those kinds of things. You're going to need your EVOS school report, your growth, whatever growth measure you use, performance data. Who does well teaching what? Your school improvement plan, what is your academic initiative, your old master schedule, a duty roster. What's the difference between a duty roster and a supervision schedule? A duty roster is during the day, like car, bus lot, car rider, lunch duty, cafeteria duty, hall duty, those kinds of things. Supervision is your after school activities. There are a lot of those in secondary schools. Your teacher working conditions survey in South Carolina, that'll be Cognia or Advanced Ed. And then your latest accreditation report. The latest accreditation report is we're only interested in that first section where it gives the external context to your community. Average income, average age, average educational attainment. Put your community in context. Now, many of you have already written that in your school profile. And if that's in your school profile from your AppSell and AppTel, it's a quick copy and paste. But these are the things that you're going to need to address task 1. So let's look at task 1 right quick. So let's look at our task and prompts. I think I've already got it pulled up here. Yeah. Now, remembering the OMA template this semester does not have all the goodies that the ones had last semester. We told you we'd be pulling back that gradual release. And so, but it does have the instructions. Task 1 is a contextual analysis. And so it gives you the directions, and then here's your prompt. The candidate will research and develop analysis of the school context, internal and external. That's what we're talking about. That internal is all that report card stuff, and external is community, those things. Now, you're also going to have to look at all of your federal programs that you have going on. You're going to need to look at all of those. You're going to need to have your duty roster and supervision schedule. You're going to do an audit of all of your federal and your exceptional children's programs. We'll cover that in just a minute. And then you're also going to describe the budgeting process in your school and how much participation your school improvement team gets in development of that school budget. If your school improvement team is not involved in the development of the budget, it's very likely that school improvement plan, which is owned by the school improvement team, will not be facilitated. So these are the things that you do. Here is your prompt right here. And so back to our Things you will need for task one. All right, so the master scheduling rationale is federal law programs come first when you're scheduling your school. That's why we need to do an audit. An audit means what have we got and how, and what are they getting and what are they supposed to be getting? So all your federal programs, you say, Bill, I don't know what federal programs are. Here they are. Exceptional Children, 504, intervention team referrals, all those are all, even though the intervention team is a school-based committee, those referrals are treated as if they are already in the Exceptional Children's Program. Now, it's important to note that the intervention team is a school-based committee and not a federal program in that if it goes wrong, it's on you as the principal at your house on the line. If something goes wrong in EC, it won't go well for you, but there's somebody at the central office that's in charge of EC. Not so intervention, that would be you. But those kids get the same, they get the same treatment as the exceptional children. Title I, either a school or a program. English is a second language, academically gifted, and career and technical. All these have to be done first because they are the most restricted. The federal government pays for those salaries of those teachers, and they tell you very specifically what you can do with that money and class sizes and those things. And that is your most restrictive. And so that you've got to do that. And so the second part of rationale of scheduling the school is state law comes next. And they speak to things like class size limit, highly qualified teacher, what licensure teachers have to have, days, hours, and minutes of instructions, planning time, duty, free time, and teacher work days. Third is your local board policy. All these kinds of things, they tell you, when your start time is, when your end time, whether you're doing block flex, AB day, traditional, mosaic schedule, how many hours of instruction of each of those core academic subjects, special programs, clubs, organizations, local assessments. Now, I have a secret document here from Guilford County from a few years back. This is their elementary non-negotiables. They wrote them down. This is their local, again, this is start with state law, federal law, then state law, then local board policy. They wrote them down. How many minutes of everything that everybody was going to have, what we were going to do. And so that's what we're talking about. So to schedule a school, federal law comes first, then state law, then local board policy, then your performance data like EVOS, and then, and only then, teacher input. Then and only then, teacher input. And that's the way it goes. And so, again, local board policy, best practices EVOS, and then teacher input. That is how you master schedule a school. Now, I said federal law is the most restrictive. And trust me, the feds have zero sense of humor about misspending their money. I mean, zero. Somebody has to go home. So my story of woe tonight is I was supervising an intern somewhere near Chinquapin, North Carolina. Anybody know where Chinquapin is? You get on Highway 42 and head toward Thompson. And it's so far out in the country, your GPS will just spin and have a question mark. I went to this school and I had to drive up a man's driveway and through his carport and out the backside to get to the school. Can't make that up. They were working on the road. It's on dirt road. I mean, it took me over an hour to find it when I got there. The point of the story is you don't just drive by this school going somewhere else. You have to hunt it and want to get there to get there. And when I got there, I had to wait an hour to see the principal. They were having a Title I audit. Now, what are the chances the auditors from Raleigh were just riding down the road in one of those state cars and said, let's pull over here? No, what happened was the principal, he made a mistake. He instead of federal law comes first and teacher input comes last in the five part rationale, he got it upside down. As the kids would say, he got it twisted. He did teacher input over federal law. The third grade teachers pitched a fit because the Title I teacher only had, I think, 12 kids in their class and they had 30. So they pitched a fit to at least put them all up. So here's the problem. If you're in a Title I school, which means you have above 80% free and reduced lunch, everybody in the school gets to share in all that federal money, the teachers, the money, everything else. But if you at a school that has a Title I program, which means 50% free and reduced lunch, only Title I kids, you can only spend the money on them, and you can only put Title I kids in the Title I teacher's class. And so he took about 10 kids out, each out of the other teacher's class, and put in hers, and made the other two bossy old third grade teachers mad. But I'm sure just as soon as that happened, she just picked up the phone and called DPI and said, I've got 20 kids in my class that aren't in Title I program. And, you know, they hot-footed it out there, like me, had to drive through that man's yard to get there, but we got there, and they were doing an audit. Now, here's the rest of the story, folks. And this is absolutely a true story. I had to go back 2 weeks later and meet the new principal. You don't misspend federal money but one time. And there is no recourse. When you misspend federal money, you have to go home. And so you can't get it wrong. When you're scheduling a school, you can't get it wrong. Now, here's what I also know. We're getting ready to hear from our resident principal. The worst thing you can do if you've got a bad master schedule is start monkeying with it. Because the half that were happy will now be mad. Now they'll all be mad at you. If you've got a bad master schedule, it's because you had a bad process. You can't just fix the schedule. You got to fix your process. What do you start with? What is the priority? When you start with federal programs, which one is the priority? Which one is the one that we've got to make this our priority when we're scheduled? We got to get it in the right place, whether we're doing inclusion or mainstreaming or pull out. We've got to get that. We've got to take care of all these federal programs first. And then we got to go to our state law. Do we have enough minutes? Do we have enough time? Do we have the right licensure? Then our local, do we have enough minutes of this, that, or the other? What's our schedule going to be? And then we get to our performance data. Who teaches what best? You know, certain teachers, as we know, get certain results with certain kids. Who can we get the most results out of? It's about talent. It's not about time. I hired a new AP, a new history teacher one time. At the end of the first semester in high school, I told her, I said, you're going to be teaching European AP in the spring. She said, but I've only been here one semester. I said, it's not about time, it's about talent. The fellow that I've got teaching it can't teach on a dare. He's never had a student to pass the AP exam ever. To call him a teacher is just an insult to the rest of us. But I don't care that he's been here or any of those things. I need somebody who can get results. We all know that the school administration is about getting results. I told you last semester when I had the town hall for the new ones Monday night this week, I told them the same thing I told y'all. If you don't think that school performance is not important, get out now. This is not the business for you. It's all about student performance. Federal law, state law, local board policy, outcomes, performance data, and then teacher input. Then and only in that way. You've got the materials in your shell to help you get started with this. We'll follow up again next week. At this time, we're right on our time again. I want to give both of our resident principals. We'll start with Dr. Griffin Joyner. I want to start with them, and they're expecting this. I normally just spring this on people, but they must have heard that. They got smart. They made me meet with them earlier today, so I wouldn't pull a fast one on them. They're going to talk to you 5 or 7 minutes each about how they go about scheduling in their schools. So Dr. Griffin Joyner, I'll start with you on how you actually schedule City of Medicine in Durham.
All right. So we are actually about to start that process now. I just sent an email out this past weekend, my weekly email to the staff, telling them to get ready because we're about to start meeting. We do a lot of meeting, whether it's a full staff, departments, one-on-one. It's important that everyone has a voice and is a part of the scheduling process. I don't do it alone. Me and my assistant principal don't do it alone. We have 2 parts to the process, a pre-scheduling portion and then the actual scheduling portion. So just as Dr. Lamb indicated, The pre-scheduling is strictly following and being in compliance with the federal, state, local guidelines. We start out initially, we have to create our calendar. So before we can do anything, we have to create the calendar for the next year. So that is looking at the state of North Carolina, when we can start school, when we have to end school, all of those rules that apply to all of our schools. Then we look at other requirements as far as courses. A couple of years ago, our pathway, our CTE health science pathway was changed. We can no longer offer career development, for instance. So we need to make sure we're in compliance with the types of courses that the state is allowing us to teach. Specifically being a magnet high school for career and technical education, we have to make sure that we're in compliance with CTE. We also are looking at social studies. The state is altering the social studies requirement. After this year, we're going to have to shift from offering AP US history in the high school. We're now going to add in financial literacy, different things that we have to know about before we start the scheduling process. So all of these things, meetings with the district about social studies or CTE, getting everything ready. So this is all of our pre-scheduling. In addition to that, we must sit and confirm with our EC teacher, who our EC students are, what their specific needs are, what does their IEP indicate they need, and we jot all that information down because some of them are really specific, and we have to make sure in our day-to-day operations that we are meeting and complying with their IEPs. Also, our ESL students, and we have a very large ELL population. So we have to make sure that they are in the classes that are going to meet their needs, as well as 504 students, that is a legally binding document as well. And our at-risk students, we have MTSS at our school, a multi-tiered support system. And we have to make sure that our at-risk students, whether they're tier 2 or 3, get the services they need. So we're evaluating all of our students. We're pulling all of their names, looking at all of their needs that we've indicated in legal documentation that's needed for them. Then we look at all the data. This is still pre-scheduling. We look at all of our data collection. We look at our benchmarks. We look at, for rising ninth graders, their EOG scores from middle school. We look at our current EOC scores to go to the next level for the high school courses, EVOS projections. We look at that. Our benchmarks, Case 21 through Mastery Connect. We're looking at all these and pulling all these numbers to find out where the students will fit, where they need to fit. And we have high academic standards at City of Medicine. So wherever they fit, we try to put them up a little step ahead of that so that they are going to be challenged. That is one thing that we do make sure the teachers do, is challenge each student. So from there, then we'll get all the data, we'll pull in our staff members now. So we'll look at from the department's perspective. And the departments, a couple of them have already started meeting with their department members, and they sit together and talk about the students. So if it's science, they'll look at the earth science, and then they'll look at who's going to biology, if it's going to be a year-long class or semester course, because they could do biology and then chemistry. They look at all the students in the department to kind of brainstorm and talk about what would be in the best interest of the students. So they do that by department, knowing that then at the end of that, the department chairs are going to meet with me to represent their department. So they not only meet to talk about the students and their needs, they also meet to talk about their needs. And they know that I want to accommodate their needs and their wants, and they will tell you what they want. They're going to tell you all the way down to, I would prefer second period planning, and I would prefer to teach chemistry first period, and then forensics second and fourth period. they'll tell you exactly what they want, what their wish list is. And I want them to do that because I want them to have an input. But they do know in the end, whatever the students' needs are will trump theirs, and they understand that. But they do know that if there's any way possible, I can make their wish list happen to some degree, that I will go about my way to do that. Once that happens, we'll take everything together and I will meet with my admin team, which is going to be my assistant principal and my master scheduler, which is my lead counselor. We're going to look at teacher strengths, past scores, what the teachers have done in the past with particular subjects, their certifications. Love it when you hire a teacher that has a math and science certification or an English and a history certification. Love it. If I can get someone that has a dual certification, that is amazing, because year to year, our needs are going to change. So we may need more in one area one year and the next than the next. So that is something that we do look at. Then we get back to our data manager, who then puts everything, she creates the shell in Power School. And at that point, we bring in students, and I kind of start giving it to my master scheduler at that time, because she's in charge of the registration process. So once we've brainstormed and we've come up with the shell, she will then ask students what types of courses and elective courses specifically they want. And then we go back to the drawing board with the teachers and say, okay, so elective wise, these are what the students indicate that they want. We go back and talk, a lot of talking, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of meeting before we get to that point where we actually have the students put their course requests into Power School and look at creating the master schedule based on the number of students needing specific subjects and the number of sections in those specific subjects. And we do have a big board in the back conference room so that we can have a visual of everything that happens as we're working through the process.
Of course you do.
That's it.
Everybody does. You can see how she started with federal law, all of her federal programs, remembering an IEP is a federal contract. A PEP that's 504. Again, that's a contract. Their intervention team, they do, you can call them your MTSS team. That's what we're talking about with intervention, all of that stuff. Meeting with teachers, looking at performance data, all those things. And so it goes federal law, state law, local board policies, performance data, teacher input. It goes that way. It has to follow. Dr. Holloman, tell us about in Franklin.
Well, and actually, I was going to just mention, for Dr. Griffin Joyner, Jordan, you were at CM Jordan High School in Durham before you came to the School of Medicine, correct?
I was at Jordan High School before coming to City of Medicine.
And that's how many students there?
Close to 2,000.
Okay, and City of Medicine is
350. So I've done the big and the little.
I was going to say, and so we're about 1,300, and hearing you at a small school, the process of a large comprehensive school of 2,000, a school that's the size of Franklin of 1,300, or a school that's 200 to 400, it really is the same process. And same thing for elementary, middle school, high school. I know she and I are both high school, background for what we're talking about, but you really do the same process for the elementary and middle school level. You really have to begin thinking about all of the things that might be changing from that federal and state, dynamic. It could be a curriculum change that might be coming. It could be a change in testing requirements, whether it's how you are calculating growth and how you want to kind of establish your teaching teams in the elementary and middle school. So when you're looking at the scheduling piece from the federal level, regardless of whether it's elementary, middle school, or high school, you really do begin with the big picture and then work your way down. And I can give you an example. I think you touched on both the federal and the state a little bit with some of the curriculum changes. But then what happens if your local board, local district decides, well, we see what the state has said we can do. It's within a certain umbrella. We're going to do all of our elementary schools, doing looping from, first grade to second grade. And so they put an initiative out there that changes everything you had a plan to do in your master schedule. And they don't let you know until after your master schedule is already in place. And so now you've got to go back to the drawing board. So even though those federal and those state items sometimes are out there and we know about them, it's also important, I think, to really make sure that you're in tune with the local, curriculum curriculum teams, your, assistant principals, assistant superintendents for CNI, whoever it is that's making those decisions, and ask those questions early because, like Renita was saying, we're beginning pre-scheduling now. It's January, February. There are times when I've had someone from the district level bring a wonderful new bold idea to me in March and ask me to please initiate this, into our new schedule. We've already put everything in place. So I think you also have to just kind of be in mind that a lot of those changes can happen from that local level to really make sure you've integrated those. And then that brings into part two, which I think we're seeing more of, which is the human capital. Now that you have your master schedule in place, who are the people that are going to be implementing that? And now that we do know, that the teaching pool out there is getting a little bit more shallow, there are fewer candidates to find. It is more difficult to bring those quality people sometimes to the table. When Renita was saying, give somebody what they are, kind of want to have. You don't want to tell an amazing third grade teacher that you're going to move them to second grade. And then they say, well, then I'm going to jump ship and go to the county next door to teach what I want to teach. How do you have that give and take and realize that it is about building an effective master schedule where you are really maximizing the human capital you have on your campus? That does require you to sit down with department chairs, individual teaching teams, whether it's grade level teams or whatever your initiative is, and really ask them, how do you think this is going to work well? This is our school improvement plan. This is what we've all agreed to and what we say we want to see happen. How are you going to help make that occur? And sometimes they'll come up with the answers themselves. It'll sound like it's their idea, not yours, even though it's where you were kind of guiding the conversation the whole time. And the master schedule is really, the nuts and bolts to what's going to happen for the next 10 months at your school. If it's not effective, if it's not, well thought out early on, you'll find out those gaps very quickly. It'll be a teacher that will be ill placed in a classroom where they're certified, but they may not be qualified. And those are the discussions you have to have very early on with your staff. I think about some of the moments that I've had in the last few years, and some of my moments where I thought that I was the one having the best idea out there about a master schedule. Putting 10 teachers in a room for 2 or 3 hours, they come up with something that is probably equally as effective, but it's theirs. And then once they have an idea, they own it. And I tell people all the time, if you have a problem, if an issue comes up in a classroom or a schedule, if you have a problem, bring me a solution. Let's sit around the table. If they have that solution to that master schedule issue, then they'll own it and then they'll work harder for it too. So I was looking at some of those pieces there, and I know from our experience, the planning piece, probably I'd say 2 to 3 months of effective planning for a master schedule with all the pieces that are there to really put it in place. So you start in January, February, maybe by April, May, if you're lucky, it's ready to go. So I mean, it is really a large part of our school year that we spend just trying to get that right. So that way we know it's on autopilot when the school year begins.
Excellent. My story to kind of conclude the night is I left here in Lake Norman and went by the east side of Charlotte a few summers back. I was on my way to Fayetteville to teach class, and I stopped by Hickory Grove. It's a large elementary on the eastern side of Mecklenburg County, on the eastern side of Charlotte. Stopped by to see Aquanetta, the principal, see how my interns were doing. And they were in a frenzy. It was Monday, June the 11th. They all were going off, all the APs and the staff were going off contract on the 15th. And they had gotten word that morning that the school board had decided, when implementing Reading 3D, so it's been a few years back, that they would move the reading blocks in elementary school from 90 minutes to 120 minutes. And they had to start their master schedule all over again. And so to Dr. Holloman's point is, master scheduling is the same everywhere. And you get these last minute things in the local. If you can predict them and kind of plan for them, then you don't catch yourself in a situation like they were in CMS and Charlotte Mecklenburg at Hickory Grove. But I think the thing to remember, and this was brought up twice already, the process, scheduling process is the same whether you've got 300 students, 350, like Dr. Griffin Jordan, 1,300, 2,000, or like when I was a high school principal in Charlotte, I had 3,000 students. But the process is, whether it's elementary, middle, high, junior high, it doesn't matter. The process is the same. We do the same kinds of things. Again, if you've got a bad master schedule, it means you had a bad process. You got to work on the process. And so I'm going to share my screen as we close tonight. I see a chat. Catholic schools do not have DPR or use VBOS. If you don't, you can get your performance data from your principal. They can kind of tell you those kinds of things, and they can also tell you what your academic standing is as well. This is where you need to partner with your principal to make sure you get this kind of information. But yeah, we've had a lot of folks that come through Catholic schools. I'm aware of that, but your principal can kind of fill in those gaps. So let me share my screen and go back to the OMA. So we can close that. For task 1, there are the prompts. There is a document in here as well that Dr. Robertson, one of my colleagues, put together that can kind of give you some clues of the things that you make sure that you include. There are, again, it's right here, OMA guide. There's the template that has your task and prompt. There is an example, and then there's that master scheduling PowerPoint that I just showed you. All those things should get you started on your OMA this week. Again, when you get task 1 completed, your first draft, it will go in where it says OMA task for peer instructor review. When you click on that discussion board, the end of all the discussion boards is where you put your task right here, task 1 for review. And that's where you can go to get the task to peer review for your peers in your class. So that's where that is. Okay, a successful evening. We got through on time. I appreciate you all being with us this evening. Again, you can call me, you can email me, look over your discussion boards and get started on those. Get your books and make sure you're doing your reading. Get started on task 1. Task 1 is due Sunday week. All work is due by 9 o'clock on Sunday night. So you've got the remainder of this week, all of next week until Sunday. So how many days is that? 10 days, 11 days, something like that. And then the next task will be due a week after that. So we're going to give you an extra 3 or 4 days. Now, remembering the reason why we can take some extra time here in the beginning with this is when we get to OMA task 2, it's a straight copy and paste from your APTEL. It's just task 1, 2, and 3 from last semester. Take the APTEL labels off of it, and it's all of OMA task 2. So if you don't get it in by Sunday week, you've got basically another week behind that, because really OMA task 2 takes about 20 minutes. So if you can have it in 10 days to kind of keep going. If you can't, you've got an extra week to get both of those in. So, but we've got to get on with it here. We've got 10 tasks that we want to do this semester. All right. Any other questions anybody has? If you need any clarification, don't hesitate to call, email. We can Zoom. All right. If there's nothing else this evening, thanks to our resident principals for joining us tonight. They will add a lot, as you've already seen, to our experience this semester, and I appreciate them and I appreciate you. And as always, thank you for choosing Gardner Webb. I'll see you next Wednesday. Have a good evening. Good night, everybody.
Great night.
Thank you.